This is why it's hard.
You're such 100%. This is what made it hard. That was very hard for.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, oh my god, but I love my friends, but I also love your family. So I'm like, let me do both.
Yeah,
You're like, no.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
You're like, no family, and I'm like,
Yeah.
but I'm doing both. I'm doing family and friends. You're like, no, but family, and I'm like, okay.
Yeah. This is why it's hard, because although even now 6 months later, when it's all said and done, we come back to the same thing, and we still don't agree.
We still don't agree.
We still don't agree on, like, you see it this way, I see it that way. Both understand the other side, but we're still like, oh, I understand you, but still no.
Yeah.
You know, you know what I'm saying? And I think I just realized it, like, live and now. This is why it's hard. This is what makes marriage hard. Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Hope It Helps. And I have not just a special guest, probably my favorite podcast guest ever back on the show, my wife, Lana Makhzoumi. Babe, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me, part two.
So the reason I specifically wanted you for this episode, because guys, we recorded our first podcast
4 years.
5 years now. This is our 5th year, yeah. 5 years ago now. And that was episode 22.
Yes.
And this is now 100 episodes later. Back then was the day we met.
Yes.
Like the first time you came on the podcast.
Yeah, second time we ever met.
Second time we met, yeah. And so now I'm like, okay, it's been 5 years. I think it's a good time to bring you back. It's a special episode. And for today, we're going to be, back then, the title of the podcast was Dating Stories, which was hilarious. And this time, it's going to be about marriage stories.
Nice.
Because I think this is a conversation I've been wanting to have for a while.
Yeah.
And I think I want to reflect on, this is now we're going into our 3rd year of being married. I think it'd be a good time to sit back, reflect, discuss a couple things. And yeah, just get into a couple things. But for the people who don't know you, tell us about you, tell us about the podcast, and we will go from there.
You know what's weird is being on the other side.
As a guest?
Yeah.
I know. Any host that I have on the show says that every single time they sit and they're like, am I supposed to be asking questions? Or like, what? Like, I need to pay attention. And I'm like, no, guys, just sit, relax. But it's weird. Yeah.
It's weird. So I'm Lana Makhzoumi, a.k.a. Khalid's wife.
Yes, I like that. Yeah, good.
A.k.a. Khalid's wife. I started my own podcast back in 2019.
Yeah.
It was called DX Babies. It was me and my co-host, Maram. And we basically were the first dating podcast in the Middle East. And we blew up, actually. The National covered us. We were invited to podcast summits all the time. And then in 2020, a year and a half later, my co-host kind of wanted to do more of like the influencer stuff while I still wanted to podcast. And actually, I owe my podcasting career to her, because how it even started is that she was doing her master's at AUD in communications, and there was a project on do your own like communications medium, like either a blog, a newsletter, or a podcast. And then so she wanted to do a podcast, and she asked me, she's like, I really like your voice. Do you want to do it with me? And that's how it started, which is really crazy. And the first guest we had on it, her name is Lana.jpeg on Instagram, and she's like the number. She was the first Palestinian model to be on Harper's Bazaar.
Oh,
Don't
really?
quote me, but she was our first. And whenever we see each other, I'm like, can you believe like we were like nobodies when we like met? Crazy. And then I started my own podcast, rebranded Tell Me Everything with Lance.
Yeah.
Started out as a dating podcast as to why you had me on your podcast, and then now has transitioned as my life has transitioned. So it went into like body image issues, social media addiction, changing your careers, getting married, being engaged, planning a wedding. So it's kind of gone through the life stages I have.
Yeah.
And my real-time job is I work in PR.
Yeah. That's true. I didn't know that the Lana story, that she was.
Yeah, do you know who that is?
No, I don't know.
Oh, she's so cool.
Yeah.
Shout out to Lana.jpeg.
Shout out to Lana. Whoever you are, shout out. So for today, I wanted to reflect.
Okay.
And I've split up the conversation into like 4 parts. There's before like when we were engaged. There's year 1, year 2, and then more of a general marriage discussion.
Okay.
So starting with before, we both went in when we were getting married and we were engaged. We both went in with a certain perspective, and me and you have many times sat down over the last year or two, and we've laughed like, "Wallah, people lied to us about this marriage thing," And I think people always used to say marriage is hard.
Yeah.
But obviously, once we got married and the last 2 years, we've seen and gone through things that now we have a probably different understanding of what they meant. So what was your perspective before getting married, and what, I guess, has been the biggest surprise to you?
So it's hard being a guest. So what the first question is, what was your my perspective before marriage?
Yeah.
So my perspective was, like, obviously we have to talk about the hard shit, like finances.
Sure, yeah.
But I don't think me and you really discussed
These things, yeah.
in depth. Like when we were. I say like there was like 3 chapters. We were dating, honeymoon phase.
Sure.
Tricked Khaled into saying I love you to me like 3 months in.
Facts.
And then we went and like had engaged phase, which was like a little bit hard. Now we had like the family dynamics in check. But during that time, I still was like, oh, if this is the hardest it's gonna be, we're chilling. Because like planning a wedding was quite hard because you have my parents, your parents, family traditions on both sides, amount of people, guest list type. So I was like, I could see like, okay, like, how does Khaled problem solve? How do I problem solve? And I feel like we had like a couple tough moments, which every couple does when they're planning a wedding, but we got through it. So I thought in my head, okay, if this is how we're gonna be able to problem solve every moment during marriage, we're chilling. But I think what I underestimated was that at that point, we weren't living together. We were under the same roof. So, like, even though we would fight, we would, like, go and, like, have our alone time. Like, cool off. Even if it wasn't about the wedding. Even if it was just general fights. Cool off. Go in your, like, and then, like, but when it came to marriage, my perspective was that would still happen for somehow.
Yeah, I get what you mean.
Somehow we would still have our corners to, like, go cool off and come together.
Yeah.
But no, it's like you're living with the person. So like you have to manage their emotions and I know my emotions are quite loud. So I didn't take that into account. I thought it was very much butterflies and roses and smiles. Like 98% of the time. And then when those moments happen, like, okay, you would fight, it would like be like a thing for a bit and then you would come back together. And then the other part was, I think something that I also give to couples who are engaged now. As crazy, I was the first one to get engaged.
From your friends.
You know what's so crazy? Christine, my best friend Christine and my cousin May were literally, this was a week ago. She was like, if I could bet money on anyone in our friend group getting married first, I swear to God, it would never have been that. If you're like, I would literally have bet money. Like money would have been lost. And I just died. I'm like, I know, same. Because I think I was very much like I was always wanting to get married, but I think a lot of other girls stressed on it, wanting to happen like ASAP. Anyway, so where was I in my little, wow, being a guest is so hard. I feel so bad for my guests now. And ADD disaster.
No, you were talking about how.
Okay, yeah. So I think looking back, maybe certain topics such as, I know we don't have kids, but like we didn't really discuss, like we knew we wanted kids. We knew we wanted 2 to 3. But we never talked about how would we raise them, where would we raise them, financials, rent, diwa. Like we didn't discuss like travel. How do we spend money? You're not a big spender. I was, kind of still am. But you know, like where does your money go to every time you get a salary every month? How much do you save? I think these are bigger topics that you don't really discuss.
It's true.
Before marriage until you get into marriage. So that was my perspective before and after.
Okay, interesting. I think you made I think I would agree with you on the sense that there were a lot of topics that we didn't or maybe we had discussed, but we didn't really get into them until we were married, and you're kind of now we have to. Yeah. Now we have to figure it out. Now we have to do these things. I remember when we got engaged, I told you, I'm super happy, but I want to keep a level head. That was something that was very important to me because I had seen the mistakes that people made, getting, carried away with the honeymoon and the parties and whatever, and not having more difficult discussions.
And I think you witnessed that because your friend group got married.
Yeah.
Like I was the first of mine. You were almost the last of one part of your
one
friend
part,
group.
exactly. Yeah. So for me, it was also kind of like what you said. It was, I did have maybe rose-tinted glasses on how marriage would be. Like you said, very easy, and khalas, I have my wife, and it will be, I'm sure life will be, simple.
Because they always tell you, get a partner.
Yeah.
You should get married. Like part of your life, whole trajectory, one of the key parts of it is to find someone.
Yeah, that's
They
true.
don't tell you what happens after that.
No, they just say it's hard. That's it. No details, no nothing.
Like,
yeah,
it's hard.
Because do you think? Sometimes I think about this. I'm like, if people knew how difficult it can be, if you knew that before, not you saying, but like in general, do you think it would put people off?
No, I think people would still get married, but I think there's it's like more realistic to know that these are the type of issues that can come up. I think we're grateful that we have a generation that has podcasts, that has friends who are open to being vulnerable. Our parents' generation, imagine being vulnerable, saying like marriage has been hard this year.
Yeah.
Not a thing because judgment, society, religion, culture, it just isn't a thing. But I think we're grateful that our generation is more open to that.
Yeah, that's a very good point. That's a very good point. So because even like reflecting on growing up, how you grew up, how I grew up, we grew up very differently. But that is an aspect that I think about sometimes. Yeah. I'm like, what if you were more open with me? Like if I was more aware of like what's, the hard times or whatever, and like what's going on behind the scenes, would it have set me up better for when I got married? I do think about that sometimes. And then you can look at it both ways. One side is it's not your problem. You need to, this is between us. You guys are the kids. It's our job to take care of it and, just to be the best parents for you. On the other side, I'm like, if maybe if I was more aware or you were more honest about these kind of things, would it have given me a deeper appreciation for the difficulties that can like come with marriage? Going into year one. So to start off, I think year one, the way I look at it was, I wouldn't even say year one was, I look at year one as the transition into real marriage. That's how I reflect on it. I'm like, year one of marriage, it definitely was the honeymoon phase. There was a lot of things that we had to figure out and like discuss. But I would say it was the lead up to year two.
Yeah.
I think year one, there was maybe a lot of maybe internal, like personal stuff that we had to like learn and like adjust to, like me for myself, you with yourself. But I feel like year two was when we had to like, it was like, all right, now it's us and we really have to figure like, this out. How do you reflect on year one? What was you looking back? What do you think?
I think year one on a personal level was tough because so you lived as an adult alone. I never lived as an adult alone. I went from university to master's, back to Dubai, lived at home.
Yeah.
So my work life was at home. So like meals were prepared, laundry was done, bed was made. The aspects of like after your 9 to 5 didn't really apply to me. So when I became married, it's like, okay, I have myself to take care of and now I have a husband. I have a partner. So I think that personally was the hardest thing for me. And that came into our marriage.
Yeah, of course.
Because we discussed it the first 3 months, I feel like you had an easier time getting used to that part of it, whereas I had a much more difficult time.
That's fair.
But besides that aspect to it, it was very much the honeymoon phase.
Yeah.
We were like loving life.
Yeah.
We were like, messing around in the kitchen with cooking and how to cook and stuff like that. And then kind of, I think like, it was like we were starting to understand, okay, finances, like, but we really didn't really tap into it.
Yeah.
I don't think we really spoke about it much.
Yeah, that's true.
About like savings and life savings and all of that.
Yeah.
And then year two came. There was a switch in you and there was a switch in me. I think for your business, you had like bigger dreams and bigger goals for them. And for me, I wanted to shift my job.
Yeah.
So I think we both were like it's like year one, if I look at like, I'm a very visual learner. If I look at year one, we both were like, hee hee ha hoo, let's just fuck around, like spend money. Let's like travel the world. And then year 2 was where we're like, oh God, like looking in or looking out or looking at partner. Year 2 was tough.
Yeah, year 2 was tough.
Especially H1, like first half.
Yeah, first half. I would agree. Before we get into year 2, we also, guys, just for the record, we recorded a podcast for Lana. Yeah, remember that? We recorded a podcast. It was 3 months in to us being married.
I remember how bad that set looked.
Well, bad in many, many things. But we're going to get into the second aspect of it first. But first, looking back, we both finished that episode and we weren't happy with it. We were both, I wasn't happy and you weren't. But I don't think we ever talked about what were you not happy with. I know what I wasn't happy with, but I don't know what you, I don't think I've asked you what were you not happy with.
It felt very rigid and didn't feel fluid. Like this already, what are we, like 10 minutes in? It's already feeling quite fluid.
Sure.
That was very much like, number one, it was, I know in a podcast or Q&A, but it didn't feel conversational. And also, I don't feel like we had enough data to give proper insight.
I agree.
We had no data. So it was 3 months in. We had no data. Like, what do you mean?
Yeah.
We were just like, like we were talking. We had zero data.
That's true.
Yeah. What bothered you about it?
I think you touched on definitely the conversation didn't flow the way me and you talk.
Yeah.
Number one. I think we were trying to answer questions, like you said, that we did not have the data for. Like one of the questions you asked me is, what is your expectations in this marriage? And at 3 months in, I told you at the time, I'm like, I don't know. Because I really didn't know. Not enough things or situations had happened.
Sure, I did ask you that question, yeah.
For me to really think about that. At the time, I was like, we're good. Like, I'm fine. I don't think I have any like expectations, whatever. But obviously, as time has gone on and we've gone through a lot of different experiences together, now there on both sides, there are certain expectations.
Yeah. But that, I think, comes from time.
Yes.
See, that's where it's like a bit of a chicken and egg, don't you find? Because, we had expectations, the cliche ones. Be loyal, be honest, be kind, be open, be whatever. Like all of like I know we don't have vows in our culture, but like the vows you say in a marriage. But now I feel like we have more specific vows, right? Like be considerate when like I'm recording a podcast or, like be transparent in terms of how much money we want to save every month or you know what I mean? Like there are things I feel like we have expectations for.
No, for sure. And I think expectations is something that we have gotten better at, but also something that you will always be working on.
Yes.
And the way to address them is probably the thing I don't do the best at and what you're the best at, which is communicating. Well,
it's my job.
Well,
I literally work in communication.
Yeah, that's true.
Be bad if I wasn't good at it. Be a big red flag. And I've been in it for a decade.
That's also true.
But I love communicating. It's my favorite thing in the world because you can communicate through body language, through speech. There's so many ways you can communicate through your social media.
Yeah.
I love communication.
I know you do. The communication aspect is one that I think was the hardest one of the hardest adjustments for me because I haven't had a problem communicating, but I have had problems communicating how I really feel about things. And year 1 was the hardest for me because I was barely communicating. Year 2 is when I actually started to speak up and like do that, but it was very, very uncomfortable.
It was very tough for you.
Very tough.
And
very tough.
I was upset because I was like, where has this been?
Yeah.
It's been 1 year of like silence and me being, let's put it as, and like, I think that's where I was like frustrated because I was like, you've been silent this whole time. And like, now you're like, I'm glad you have a voice. Use your voice. You should communicate.
Yeah.
But I think that's what caught me a bit off guard.
No, for sure. And one thing also that we have to consider is we're also different. Yes. We do handle problems very differently. Yeah. We do have different internal like metrics of does this warrant communication? Like you will tell you're an extreme and I feel like I'm in the middle. You tell me everything and anything all the time.
True.
That's not how I work and you know that now. But also I've had to come from I wouldn't say I was extreme, but I've had to move closer towards your side because I've seen there's a lot of times I think I'd feel a certain way, be thinking something, but then I'd communicate it and be like, oh, that wasn't so bad. Like that was much more fixable than I thought. And I think still something, I'm working on and adjusting.
I think at first when you were telling me your feelings and communicating, I was caught off guard, so you were getting a negative reaction from me. But now, as I've realized, is that giving you positive reinforcement when you are communicating is the way to go. Because then you feel more confident in being able to...
Makes me feel safe.
Exactly.
Yeah,
True.
yeah. Like to have sometimes quite difficult conversations.
Exactly.
Looking at year 2, as we both have said, I think that was the hardest year in our entire relationship.
100%.
For many, many reasons. I think one of the biggest challenges last year was not only us starting to become more of a unit and start planning how does Lana want to live, how does Khala want to live, how do we want to live.
Yeah.
That was a big adjustment. And also on a personal level, I think we both went through a lot of changes last year.
Yes.
A lot of changes.
In half one.
In the first half. All were positive, but it's interesting what we learned, that even positive changes on both sides can bring negative challenges to the marriage. So how do you reflect on year 2?
First half, I think, was very, very, very hard.
Yeah.
Compared to second half. Because second half, I think we and we'll discuss what happened in second half. But first half, I wasn't, I needed a change for my job. It's the best way to put it. Because I wasn't F this place, I hate, no. It was, I needed a change. I'd been there for 7-8 years. Khalas. I needed a change for my job. And so I was very, I was very frustrated with that. And I had been kind of dabbling and applying, and then I would apply and then not apply and then apply and then not apply. So I was very much going through a career moment. And then you were also going through your own career moment of building your business and being an entrepreneur. And I know I'm a very structured person. So when it came to you not being structured in your day of how I would be structured in my day, that would cause resentment. We were very open about this.
Yeah.
And then I think you went through your very much health and wellness phase.
Yeah, big time.
Of your morning routine. I think you would get upset with me when I wouldn't do a morning routine. I would but my morning routine was to wake up, do affirmations, and go to my work. But your morning routine is an 8-step process, and I don't know what and this and that. So I think we were clashing a lot with even just waking up in the morning and what did you do in the first 2 hours?
Yeah.
We would clash on that.
Yeah.
So I think that was on a wellness level, we had a lot of clashes. Then on the career stuff, we had a lot of clashes. So then I think when it came to the marriage stuff, friends and family, we've also had some clashes, expectations on both sides. But then when it came to the marriage partner stuff, I feel we were just clashing because we were clashing on every other area of each other's lives, struggling, this, that. So I think that then we were clash on that part too. So I feel it was inevitable that we were gonna have an issue.
Yeah.
Or not be on the same page.
Yeah.
It was tough.
It was tough.
It was tough living in the same house with the person you're clashing with.
Yeah, 100%.
That's the part where I was fuck. I was shit, man. That's just tough.
Yeah. No, that's true. I think you made a good point about there were so many different areas we were clashing in that we were getting to a point that we were just fighting about nothing.
Yes.
I said something a certain way, you said something one way, and then it's but why? And there was a lot of unresolved things on both sides that were never discussed.
Yes.
And I don't think we realized what we were still carrying with us from the past into where we were right then in the marriage. And that's when we decided couples therapy.
Yeah.
Now,
which, by the way, best thing in the world.
That was I think one of the best moves we've made.
And that was, by the way, inspiration from other couples around me.
Yeah.
Who had been even in the dating, almost getting engaged, first year marriage around me. That's what inspired me personally. I was like, I mean, and they like just spoke so highly of the experience. I was
Yeah.
like, okay, well, it can't be bad.
Yeah.
Can't be bad.
Yeah. When it's okay, we've done therapy before individually.
Yeah.
And we did therapy, couples of therapy last year and individual therapy
Yeah.
last year. When you look back on like couples therapy, how did you feel compared to like when you were doing therapy alone?
I actually liked it more.
You liked it more?
Yeah, I mean, when it came to talking about stuff between us.
Yeah.
Because I feel like when you're in individual therapy, the therapist is only getting your version of the story. Plus, you're only hearing, even if she's just listening, even if she's provoking questions, whatever it is, she's also giving you like one-sided questions as well. But when you're in couples, what I notice is like she's hearing both like versions of like the same situation.
Yeah.
And then is able to ask questions that benefit you hearing the answer on both sides.
Okay, I get what you mean. I think for me, the biggest challenge of couples therapy is like, okay, we're here now, and as I just mentioned, communication and being vulnerable and open about certain things has not been my strong suit. So that was like even more uncomfortable for me at the beginning. I'd say the first 2-3 sessions I was not comfortable because I'm like, now I really have to talk and I have to be unfiltered.
But really, Khaled, because I felt like the first 2-3 sessions you were talking most of the time.
Yeah, but I wasn't comfortable.
Oh, okay.
I'm like, I know I'm here for a reason. We're here to, and I have to do this for us to, otherwise why are we here? If I'm not going to be honest and open.
Okay, I get what you're saying.
How do you reflect on it? Like, what did you learn going through that experience? What did you learn?
4 sessions?
No, babe, we did more, way more.
So way more relaxed.
Yeah, we did like 7-8 sessions.
I just remember when we came back from September weddings, we didn't do it anymore.
Is that when we stopped?
Yes. Because I remember
Singapore. and then we were doing our own.
Correct. Correct. And I think we started in July.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're probably right. Like, like 7-8 sessions. What was my feelings towards it?
Like what did you learn? Like what did couples therapy teach you about like us or give you a new perspective on us or marriage or like what did you learn from that experience?
I think I loved it, first of all, because I think it's a really great way to give couples a third perspective on someone that's not in your life. Because if you talk to, I know boys don't talk, but whenever you talk to your friends and I talk to my friends, you're going to get a one-sided story and probably get a biased response.
Yeah.
As when it's couples therapists are not in your life. So I like that part of it. Like it's someone completely unbiased that's listening to like both of your stories. What I learned is like how you think on like a different level, like how you think when you're like provoked with questions. Because when you're telling me something's wrong or we're fighting, like I'm not gonna provoke you with the same questions as a therapist is.
Yeah.
As for a therapist, is gonna like ask you those type of questions.
Sure.
And hearing her questions and your responses maybe understands you more and how you think more. Personally, I feel like it was more beneficial for me to understand you more than for you to understand me because I'm such a good communicator.
Interesting. Okay.
Do you not feel that way?
I think that's fair to say.
Yeah,
I think that's
which is good. It's what needed to happen because you don't speak. But at that point, it was hard for you to speak.
Yeah. I think I never thought of that. You're probably right. Like for me, what I found very beneficial from it was it revealed areas that I wasn't aware of.
Yeah.
Of like this thing that time like bothered you, and that's why it has like there's a story here. But I only knew this part of the story. I wasn't aware of the deeper context which was playing into this story or this situation that we're trying to figure out. Also for me, what I really liked about it was it taught me that I think I can be when I believe something, like it's very hard to change my mind. And she would say like, if it was something I was very like, no, it has to be like this, blah, 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 blah. Just the way she would say it, she's like, but like, also, like, whatever. And I was like...
Bro, I loved her therapist.
Yeah, she's awesome. She was amazing. So it showed me that I'm like, okay, I need to have strong beliefs, but I also need to be willing to
adapt.
Adapt, and maybe it's not as. Sometimes I might think something. I'm very serious. Like I don't agree with this or whatever. And then I might talk to someone, and they'll be like, "But like, is that really that serious?" And then I go back and think, I'm like, "Okay, maybe I don't like it, but it's not that serious. Like I can." It taught me that I have to learn to live with things I don't like.
Yeah.
You know, because for me to be like, you have to live this way, or you tell me I have to live that way. That's not how it's gonna work.
Totally.
I think the biggest thing for me after like going to a couples therapy, and you brought up the structures of how your day was structured, and then when I had my structure in the morning, like that's where sometimes we had some frustration, some resentment, whatever. What I learned, the biggest thing I learned last year was acceptance.
Yeah.
Learning to accept that you are different to me. You don't think like me. You don't talk like me. You problem solve differently. You're just different.
I like to go out.
You like to go
I
out.
like to be out and about.
You do, yeah.
Your best friend's a couch plus me.
Exactly.
It's me plus couch.
See, exactly. I only have 2 friends. I'm very happy. It's very, very simple.
But by the way, just to go back to the couples therapy, that
Sure.
was one of the things that you didn't realize. Was that in couples therapy, she asked me, it was a question, I don't know if you remember this. She was like, do you believe Khalid's changed?
Yes.
And I said yes. And I'll tell you which way he changed. Is that he was whining, dining me first year, second year even, and then a switch happened where he was like, I don't want. You were like, I found the girl. Why do I need to go out?
True.
And for me, I'm like, but like I'm not 80.
Yeah, I know. You think you relate. It's funny. We were talking at on New Year's.
Yeah.
With Yus and
Yeah.
Islam, we were like sitting, and it was her because she was saying exactly what you're saying.
Yeah.
And he was saying exactly what I'm saying. Okay. She's like, yeah, but like I want to go out and whatever. I'm like, you guys don't understand. Girls and guys go out, or we used to go out for very different motivations.
Yeah, I think so too.
It's not the same. Like, yes, I want to go out, have fun with like my friends. That wasn't like the main reason I was going out, but that was a significant part of it. And you saw with every guy, once he found the girl, he's like sure I can go out, but like I don't really need to. You know, it's just different.
I think for girls, it's like get dressed.
Yeah, it's a
makeup,
thing for
Like
you don't have that motivation. Like,
no.
oh, I'm not going out and like one of
go
the
out to meet a guy.
Yeah,
Ew,
exactly.
That sounds like a nightmare.
Exactly.
I go out for good drinks, good food. I'm good.
Exactly.
And girl talk.
On the going out part, because and I'm sure many couples can relate to this.
Yes, for sure.
For sure. Because I was telling my cousins this actually the other night. I was like, look, my routine and like my health and like the way I like to feel every day is very important to me. And I think part of that acceptance was learning that like, and what I took from therapy is like, I have to adjust sometimes. I can't just I want to be 100%, but I'm going to have to be fair, you need to settle for like 90. You have to settle for 90 sometimes. December that just passed, okay, was like it was.
I don't think I'm gonna hear the end of
like
this
no.
December.
You okay? December was like we were.
But it was actually even I was tired.
Yeah.
Even I was because we were working too.
Yeah, I know.
We were working like
Yeah.
it's like we didn't turn off.
Yeah.
Like we'd working, we'd go out the night, then we'd working, then my family, your family, my tita and Judah were here. Like it was a whole thing.
It was a whole thing, and we went out. I think we went out more in December than probably I've gone out in like the last like 5 years.
100%.
Like just in that 1 month.
Yeah.
But although I was hating my existence the next day, I must say, and I was telling my cousins this, it changed something for me. I'm like, oh, because I had fun.
Yeah.
I have to be honest. It's not, okay, yeah, the next day was rough. And that's why I don't like doing it anyway. But I did have fun. So it kind of taught me like, okay, it has to be like a 90-10 split. Like, because it just has to be fair to you, it can't always be like, no.
Well,
you know?
I'm so happy I found an Ushuaia. That was like in black coffee and
blast.
like the new, like I have to say this December was very fun.
It was fun.
It was fun. It was rough. I'm telling you, we were working,
Yeah.
like waking up at 8:30 the next day to be online at 9 was rough, but like it was very fun.
It was.
See, going out can be fun.
I never said it couldn't be fun, but it's just, again, the motivations are different.
Yeah.
And now it's like, even if I go out now, it's you know it's for you.
Yeah.
You know, like
I know.
if you weren't here, I'm not going out anywhere. Okay, I have no need. I'm like, why? I'm just gonna sit and chill. I'm very happy that way. This is good.
I understand.
So looking at.
You're too sorry. I interrupted you because I thought
Yeah,
it was
please.
a good point.
Go. No, please.
No, it's okay. I already interrupted you. I said I'm sorry I interrupted you.
Oh, I do whatever, bro.
No, because I felt like it's a very good thing to say about going out.
Yeah.
'Cause I think so many people can relate to that point.
Yeah, I know. I think this comes on to the concept of, or like the topic of compromise.
Yes.
Now, compromise is a weird thing because okay, let me ask you this. Is compromise the same thing as sacrifice? Or is there a difference?
No.
Okay.
No.
Okay, in your mind, what's the difference? Because the way in my definition, if I'm compromising, I am sacrificing what I want, maybe not all of it, but some of it, to find a balance here. So I think you can't compromise without having sacrifice. That's my perspective. How do you
But
see
I
it?
define them like a sacrifice is like, I don't know if I should say this.
What do you want to say?
I want to basically Tala's like a friend's bachelorette and your brother's graduation. Me not going to her bachelorette was a sacrifice. It wasn't a compromise. But you would look at it as a compromise.
Yes.
See, I disagree.
Yeah. But it's the same. But a sacrifice is you can't have compromise without sacrifice.
No, but I'm sacrificing going to a very good friend's bachelorette who she was at my wedding, my bachelorette, my bridal shower, like my everything.
Yeah.
It was and she was there for all of my moments and I couldn't be there for one of her key ones.
Yeah.
That was a sacrifice, big time on my part.
That's how you like look at it.
100% I saw it as a sacrifice.
Okay.
Like, okay, I'm doing this for my husband.
Okay. Fair.
That's a sacrifice.
Yeah, that's
because
fair.
what was the compromise on my part? I didn't go to the trip at all. So
That's
it's
true.
A sacrifice.
Yeah, that's true. Okay, I can see I can see maybe it's contextual. Maybe it depends on the situation how you would define compromise and sacrifice, because I don't know, I still see it as again, I understand your perspective. I think I see
because
it differently.
then I see yours. Okay, so then I see, okay, you don't want to go out one weekend.
Yeah.
You're like, Lana, go without me. I'm like, okay. That's a compromise on my part. On your part, sorry. Wouldn't you see that as, sorry, like okay, I'm like, okay, like he's not compromising. He's not like, I'll come out for a bit and then go home. Or like, I'm not, if I would have said, okay, we can leave early though, that would be a compromise on my part, but you still wouldn't say yes.
At times, yeah, probably.
You know?
I won't. Oh, yeah.
So that's why I don't see it as the same.
Well, it depends. You have to look at it. It depends what your this again comes back. I'm happy we're on this topic because I think this is something that a lot of people would probably like go through. I think definitions are very important. And I think this is one thing also that we're still learning and will always be learning in marriage is understanding the other person's side.
Yes.
So the example you just gave is a great example. It helped me understand how you see things. Like you looked at it as that in that situation, that's a sacrifice, that wasn't a compromise. And then you look at, for example, the going out thing, this is a compromise, it's not a sacrifice. On my side, I look at them as one of the same thing. Because as I said, the sacrifice is part of the compromise. Because some compromise also means like sometimes I have to do 100% what you want, not what I want. So that's a sacrifice. That's compromising.
No, man.
Of course.
Compromise 50-50. You're compromising. Yes.
See, this is what I'm talking about.
Yes.
I'm happy we're here because this is what I'm talking about.
In the bachelorette situation,
you see a compromise as 50. Sorry to interrupt.
I wanted to do the compromise of I do half and half.
Yeah.
I spend a bit in Turkey. I spend like 3 days in Turkey, 3 days in London or whatever. I was like, that's my compromise. Great. I can be there for both parties. That's a compromise. You were like, absolutely not. And I was like,
no, I was.
That's the sacrifice.
Yeah,
I sacrificed that trip of not spending any time on that trip.
Yeah.
You get what I mean?
I get what you mean. So a compromise to you is when you meet in the middle.
Yes. That's why.
And a sacrifice is 100 and 0.
Exactly.
Interesting.
That's why I didn't see the July situation the trip and the graduation situation as a compromise. Because I was like, I'm literally sacrificing, like spending time with my best friends, going on a trip, being there for her as she was for me. Like I didn't see it as a compromise. I was like, I am sacrificing this, and I hope he knows it.
Okay. So if we take that, if that's a good example. So if we take that example.
Like you going to the U.S., right, to those grandfather.
Yeah.
Was that a sacrifice, compromise, anything?
If it's by your definition, if I'm using your definition, it's a sacrifice. But from my definition.
What were you missing?
Nothing, but I would have.
Exactly.
I know, but
so
I would.
That's not a sacrifice.
It would be because I would have done that either way. Do you get what I'm saying?
How is that a sacrifice then?
Because even if I had something to do, that would have taken. I would have said that would have been.
But my point is, you didn't.
I didn't have to, but I would have, and you know that.
But you didn't. So you didn't compromise or sacrifice on anything. Because you didn't actually have something.
Fine, but it would be the same either way.
I know, but you
get what
didn't
I'm saying?
have to sacrifice.
But you get what I'm saying? It would be the same either way. So whether there was something there or wasn't, I was going. Correct or no?
I think we just see it differently. This situation is gonna live and haunt me for the rest of my life.
Yeah. Well, what are you gonna do? This is what happens sometimes, and I'm happy this is happening live because now you can see. Like, I'm sure so many people at home, if you're listening to this, are gonna be like, yeah, this sounds like something we just went through like a week ago or whatever. It's always gonna, and this is what we're talking. This is a great example. This is why it's hard.
You're such 100%. This is what made it hard. That was very hard for because I'm like, oh my god, but I love my friends, but I also love your family. So I'm like, let me do both.
Yeah,
and you're like, no.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
You're like, no family, and I'm like, yeah. But I'm doing both. I'm doing family and friends. You're like, no, but family, and I'm like, okay.
Yeah. This is why it's hard because although even now 6 months later, when it's all said and done, we come back to the same thing, and we still don't agree.
We still don't agree.
We still don't agree on, like, you see it this way, I see it that way. Both understand the other side, but we're still like, oh, I understand you, but still no.
Yeah.
You know, you know what I'm saying? And I think I just realized it like live and now. This is why it's hard. This is what makes marriage hard because. And this is what we've talked about acceptance and whatever. We have to accept that, accepting that you're not going to see eye to eye on certain things is hard.
I agree.
You know what I mean? And this, I think it would be, I would be remiss if we didn't touch on the kids aspect. Because before I get into my side, what's your biggest worry about having kids?
Wait, I think we should... I'm not going to tell you how to do the episode, but I think we should actually go back before the kids because I feel like kids is like what's the future. Mm-hmm. I think we should talk about how after therapy changed our lives.
Okay, yeah, sure.
Right?
Yeah, that's fine.
Because I feel like we did year one, we closed. I think year two. The only thing I want to say
of course.
is that if you're a couple going through... Because for us, it was like consistent fighting. It was like 3 months of like literally back-to-back fights that were like stupid. Okay, the whole bachelorette graduation, family, friends. No, that was like a real fight that like, we both struggled with. Yeah. But like we were just fighting about stupid shit of like who would do the laundry, who would do the dishes,
like basic
cooking, like all of that.
I'm happy you brought this point up because
gender roles.
That was. This is why I'm married to her, bro. She's on my vibe. I literally have like the questions laid out like this, like gender roles, like this and that. One thing, okay, the gender roles comes into play into this context. When you started a new job.
Yes.
That was a big transition.
Yes.
That was a big transition for you. That was a big transition for me. And this is where the gender roles started like popping up like a little bit. I think... From my perspective, I could be wrong here, but from my perspective, I think you were struggling with that more than I was.
100%.
Like the gender role thing.
Yeah.
So talk to me about like how was that first 3 months of the new job phase for you?
It really comes down to how you were raised, and that's what I've realized. Because you were raised in a household where your mother was was a lawyer.
Yeah.
I was
It
raised
still is.
and it still is. So, yeah, exactly. It still is. I was raised in a household where my dad had like the pipe engineering job, and my mom would do like side businesses. Like she brought jewelry from Mexico, turquoise jewelry.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Oh, you know, Coco was like a jewelry like connoisseur.
No, I had no idea.
Bro, she still has jewelry from that phase
No
of her
way,
life.
that's sick. I had
when
no
they first
idea.
moved to Dubai, she sold, because Mexico's right there.
Sure.
So she would go to sellers of turquoise jewelry and silver and turquoise from Mexico and would sell them at her house.
Okay. Oh, I didn't know that.
When I was 1 to 10 years old.
Oh, she did it for that long too?
Yeah.
Oh, I had no idea.
For like 10 years.
Oh, I didn't know.
Yeah,
I had no idea.
yeah,
Okay, cool.
yeah.
Shout out Coco. Big shout out.
Yeah. Small business owner. So she did that for 10 years. Then she went into substitute teaching at ASD, obviously. Then she did PR for the American Business Council for maybe 10, 12 years. And then she quit everything.
Yeah.
Like she had career. She'd been working since she was 16 years old.
Yeah. Well, she grew up in the States, so it's different.
She
Yeah,
worked at Express and at Six Flags over Texas.
Sure.
Went to university, then worked in real estate, then did so she had like very different, but like it wasn't like she was like, I'm gonna be at a big corporate job.
Yes.
Like she never had the corporate job life.
Yeah.
So that's why for me I was like, okay, like she like dabbled in career and jobs, but like doing like working at APCO and then working at Luna was like, that was corporate for me. Like that was like the corporate career role. So I felt like Coco had an option all the time. Like if she, like when she wanted to retire at 50, she didn't have to go back to work.
Yeah.
Whereas now we're living in a society where like both genders are like, I don't have any girlfriends, and I don't know any girlfriends in my age bracket nor your age bracket, because you are 34 and I'm 30, that don't have jobs.
True.
That don't work and that have kids.
Yeah.
Even my cousins, your cousins, like I don't know anyone really. So I think when I went into Luna, I was like very much struggling with like, by the way, I love Luna, I love my job, I love it so much, but it was a first month of like a big transition for me of like, okay, knowing everything that I've known for the last 8 years of my life to new industry, new job, new people, going to the office every day, 9 a.m. have to be there. Like it was a lot of changes, and also feeling like I need to be here. I have to be here. Like we cannot live our lifestyle unless I am at this job. And that wasn't like, that wasn't the case. Obviously, I love my job so much now. And like after those first 2 months, it was a big career change. I now work in Web3 as opposed to corporate. It was a big change, but like I learned so much. Yeah.
I think because before up to that point, when you're still at APCO, whatever, just as a very small example would be like cooking. We used to always like, you come home,
that's what I mean. Like I had more time because I wasn't learning an entirely different world and people. And like, I was like, what is Web3? What is crypto? Guys, I didn't know what a token was. I had heard of Bitcoin. I had no idea what a token was. Now I'm like I invest, I trade. Now this is 8 months down the line. But at that point I was like, at APCO, I was like, because I knew my clients, I knew my work environment, I was very comfortable. I'd come home, I'd cook, I'd clean. I'd very much have like a woman gender role. When I moved, I had to really hustle to learn about the industry. I had to work after hours. I was constantly listening to podcasts, constantly reading. I was doing a Binance Academy course. So I'd go to work 9 to 6, and then I'd come home and need to read on. It was like it was like being in school again. Like I need to read on what I was in now, because as if people know me personally, I'm a very determined human. I'm very like, if I don't know something, I would quickly need to do it and achieve it fast. Or else I feel like I'm being left behind. So those first 2 months were very much concentrated on learning, proving myself so I can get to the next level. So when I started, I had no time to cook. I had no time to clean. I had no time to be a wife.
I
just didn't.
Yeah, and it's funny. You used to tell me like, I feel like I'm being a bad wife.
I was so guilty.
Yeah, you felt like a lot of guilt during that. Now, gender roles are from my perspective, I look at it very differently. Like I've never looked at, since we've been married, or like our relationship, I've never had the thought in my head, I'm like, I expect Lana to I expect Lana to do the traditional wife things.
Yeah.
Do you get what I'm saying? Like, what you would expect from like how a lot of probably mothers grew up, back in the day, and like not in our case, but like a lot of people. My perspective when it comes to gender roles, it's a team. I'm like, this is a team. The team, and both people have to contribute to the team in lots of different ways. For example, we even though I look at it as a team, underneath that there are certain things that like I expect you to do and you expect me to do. Very, very small example is if we're going somewhere, if we have like an event we're going to, you'd probably buy the gift for that thing. It's something small like that. But if
you're right though,
if there's anything wrong in the house, you would expect me. I'm gonna be the one to like take care of it, fix it, bring maintenance, whatever. So, but even in that, I don't look at it as gender. That's like a gender role kind of thing. I see it as a very team-based thing. Now, right now, we're both working. We're both contributing we're contributing financially. We're contributing in many different ways. I think about though the future. I'm like, if let's say you decide you don't want to work anymore, and then I'm like, it's just on me. The question I think about genuinely, I'm like, is that when it would start to come into play more? Is that when like the way we, in quotations, like, or our society is, would then it come into play then? What do you think? Do you think it would change then? Because right now I feel it's quite balanced.
Yes, because I think then I would depend on you more for financial stability. You would depend on me more to take care of household items, household chores, that would have more free time. Yeah. Right now, I think when you have a man and a woman working, contributing to the household, you both need to do the chores and do the things of like maintaining a household. Dishes, cooking, whatever. Yeah. Right now, I hate to cook.
I know.
Yeah, and you like to cook.
I love to cook.
But I have gotten better at like helping with like the meal prepping, like making sure that like it feels quite equal. Or I'll do the laundry and the dishes and then you'll do the cooking. Yeah. But I feel like but then you bring kids up. Yeah. Because like I'm the one who's going to be pregnant, not you. Yeah. So I'm going to need help.
That's true.
But I think thankfully we live in the Middle East where help is
we can there. And alhamdulillah, our families are both here too. So... And I think the gender thing is something maybe it's very culturally dependent on how significant that is. Because in our part, in Arab society, we know how our parents grew up, the mindset that like how it was. Ours now is like kind of in the middle. Yeah. I don't know what's going to look like, for the next generation. But like then you look at other parts of the world where like, look at the West, look at whatever. It's almost like it's 50-50 is like the base, not the other way around. And I think nowadays a lot of people and couples around like in the Middle East might struggle because it's a different world than our parents were living in. I was actually speaking to my parents about this. I'm like, I feel like in your time, it was easier. Yeah. The lines were the expectations, everything was very clear. Not just between as a man and a woman, even society. Like, it's a little bit, man of the house, all that stuff. Now it's like kind of in the middle.
It is in the middle. Yeah. But I like it better now.
I like
Women
it better now
have more freedom. Men have more freedom. Yeah. Stay-at-home dads are a thing. Like there's so many. I mean, don't get any ideas. But
I work from home, so like I'm home, but I'm working. Yeah.
But I think people have more freedom now to do what they want.
I agree.
And that's a positive.
It is a positive.
So now we're gonna talk about kids.
Well, no. Before we get into kids. The Achilles heel of our marriage has been this one thing. This is the thing that I think we've gone, I'd say year 2, we really got better at, but it was hard, which is appreciation. Now, the hardest thing about this is we both know the other person appreciates it. That is there. But we've both gone through phases and times where we didn't feel that appreciation for one another. And although we know it's there and maybe she's showing it to me in this way and I'm showing it to her in that way, it's not landing. Do you get what I'm saying? It's not like landing. So how do you think, like, what do you think are important or advice you would have, or how do you look at it? Like, how can we continue to improve on like that aspect?
Putting me on the spot, Khalud.
It's my job.
I know. I'll be very honest. I never thought I struggled with showing people how much I appreciate them until I met you. I find it very difficult with you.
Okay.
You're gonna say no, I'm easy, but like,
Well, as you would say the same thing if I said that. You're like, what? No, I'm so whatever. Yeah. Just balloons and flowers and you're good.
flowers, butterflies,
Yeah.
chicken nuggets. Like, it's a very good life. I struggle with you when it comes to this topic.
Yeah.
I don't know why.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like you, like, I feel like I'm like, oh, but like okay, great example. You know, for like being like so like thankful for spending so much time with my tita and Jindo on this Christmas break. Like, I got you that knife.
Yeah.
From London, Japan, because I'm like, I want to show him how much he appreciates you. I think it's about understanding your partner's love language.
Yeah. That's what it is, by the way. That's the hardest thing.
Because if you understand that I'm gift giving, quality time, and so the way I like to give love is through gift giving, quality time, and words of affirmation.
Yeah.
How you like to receive it is acts of service.
Yeah.
Quality time, and I forgot the third one.
Probably.
I know acts of service is number one for you though.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. Probably physical touch would be number 3.
Maybe physical touch,
yeah.
But like, so like acts of service is your number one, but I don't know what the hell that means. Like for me, I'm like, I don't know what that means. But like, I'm like, okay, a gift, like, I know you love cooking and I know you watch those freaking Japanese, I don't know, shows and about chef's table, Japan and Korea. So I'm like, I saw that store. I was like, I have to get Khaled a knife from here.
Yeah.
Went in, spent an hour with the guy. Fucking was shopping. Christine was dying at me. She was like, what is going on? Like, it's the most random gift, but like, I'm like, no, but he'll love this because he loves he loves cooking and I love Japanese shows. So that I'm like showing you appreciation of like, I love you. Here's a gift that I know you will love, and you died for it. You actually died.
Yeah, I did.
But see, you want me to like give you acts of service or like be more like on time management or like spend time with your family or put in more effort. But for me, I'm like, but this is my way of doing it.
Yeah. This is why it's so hard.
This is why it's hard because
this is why it's hard.
I think understanding each other's love languages though is the key to appreciation.
You you're spot on, 100%. That's what makes it hard.
And attachment styles, by the way.
Well, yeah, there's also. I'm not very familiar with attachment
styles. I wasn't either. Remember that guy I told you about, Toby? Toby, I'm gonna send you this episode.
Okay, shout out Toby.
Toby, I'm gonna send you this episode, Toby. So Toby, the first remember I told you got super deep in convo.
Yeah.
The first thing he's like, "What's your attachment style?" I'm like, I don't know. I think it's, and then he started telling me them, and I was like, maybe I'm the anxious type, where it's like you're constantly in validation that like you're loved, you're appreciated.
If that's what the definition is, 100%.
So I was like, that's me. Anyways, we should do research on more of attachment styles.
Yeah, I don't really know mine.
There's only 3, by the way.
Oh,
so
okay.
like languages are 6.
Yeah.
There's only 3.
Oh, okay. I'm
But I
not
think
familiar.
knowing those 2 will make you feel appreciated more. Sorry, you were gonna say something.
No. That's. I'm not familiar with attachment styles, but definitely something now that I know. I'm definitely gonna. You know me. I'm gonna be on YouTube. I'm gonna be looking at attachment style podcasts and shit. The appreciation thing. The why it's hard is you're 100%
It's love
right.
languages.
It's a love language. So that's the first part of it. What makes it even harder, I think, is you have to. I know what yours is, you know what mine is. So I know how I need to give it to you, and you know how you need to give it to me. But at the same time, also, I'm not used to giving it to you that way, and you're not used to giving it to me the way I need. So you have to not only learn to love the way that you give it to me. You get what I'm saying? Like, I have to learn, like, I know, gifts is like, that's how you show me. With time, I've had to learn how to feel that appreciation more.
Yep.
So I think it's a balance of learning to appreciate the way your partner gives it to you, but also I think on both sides it's also at times learning to also give it to them the way they need it, and finding that balance I think is probably the key. Would you agree or disagree?
I agree.
You agree? Alhamdulillah.
I agree because we want it. Because it's a balance.
Yeah,
you need to know how to give it, and you know how to receive. Like you need to meet the person halfway.
Yeah, it needs to be it needs to be a balance.
Like I think last night's date night.
Yeah.
Filled both of our love languages.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah. I would agree.
Quality time, physical touch.
Yeah, I would agree.
You know what I mean? Like, like I feel like it was like.
Yeah. The last night's dinner was good.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Like it filled like
cute.
it filled our boxes.
Yeah, I agree. I would agree. We have to round off the conversation with kids. We just have to. Kids is something that I think we both want.
The puff was like.
Yeah, it's because like it's as these conversations we've been having with like people and whatever. I've always wanted them, but now that it's a thing, like I really have to think about.
It like became a thing. It started to become like, it could be a reality in like 2 seconds.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And seeing everyone, obviously my cousins, my friends around me who have kids and how their life has changed and so on. So I want to hear from you first. What's your biggest fear about having kids? Then I'll tell you mine because I have many. But I'll tell you.
So I think my biggest 2 fears is how's our relationship going to change? Because I already realized last year that. Actually, I've known this my entire life. 1 month. Well, since 18 years old, I know I've struggled with change. Yeah. Whether it's moving to America, whether it's moving to college, whether it's breaking up with someone, whether it's friendship breakups, whether it's marriage, I'm a job change. I struggle with change. So I think what worries me or concerns me is like, obviously our relationship is going to change. It's inevitable, but like how drastic is it going to change? Yeah. That's the first thing that scares me. I think the second thing that scares me is my body. I'm gonna be very honest with you. I know it's a selfish one, but like how, like, because I already struggle with body image issues and like, oh my God, like I have to work so hard to like get to the body that I currently have, which is like a normal body. Like it's not even like skinny or anything that like, oh my God, I'm gonna have to work so crazy hard to like, to get to back to what I was, or even like to a place where I feel comfortable somewhat. Those are the 2 things that scare the shit out of me.
Fair. On the body one, I think because once you have a goal, you'll go for it. I think what you struggle the most with when it comes to that is patience. Is giving yourself the time. You want it to happen now. And I told you, like, just even after you have a kid, if you just kept doing what you're doing now.
I'd be at Pilates the next day.
No, you'd be on a call and at Pilates the next day.
So are you looking for PR services
for
your crypto company?
Yeah. The relationship one is definitely something I worry about too.
I think we see what's happened around us.
Of course. Yeah. And there's obviously good and bad examples. For me, one of the biggest things I worry about, obviously this plays into the relationship part, is over the last 2 years, we've gone through a lot of ups and downs, right? And literally in this recording, we've seen where there are still things we will not see eye to eye on. Me and you not seeing eye to eye on a situation, no problem. But when it's a kid, it's very different because you might see something completely one way and I may see something completely the other way.
Totally.
You know, bringing that like into. Like if we, like for example, in the example we gave today, we see it differently. How do you do that now with a kid?
I know.
You know, that honestly, that is the biggest worry for me because I'm like, how are we gonna come to, like, how do you figure that out? Because we both have very strong, although we understand it, we don't right now. We don't have to compromise to the other. Like either one has to compromise to one side. We just see things differently. But when it's a kid, you're gonna have to, and how you do that is what worries me the most.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think though we do have good tools. Like I think help is like a big aspect of it too. Like we have our parents to help. Like both sets, alhamdulillah. Nannies are like a thing here. Yeah. Nurseries. There's good education systems. Like the things I think that would be an added pressure overseas or to people even living here, I think we alleviate like 25% of it.
Sure, fair. That's fair.
So I think that 60%, we're just going to have a really strong, maybe we're going to have a really strong foundation.
Yeah.
But see, don't you see it as like a battle?
It
I'm
is.
like, this is my battle.
Yeah, it is. And everyone tells you, okay, everyone tells you like you'll never be ready.
Yeah.
For kids. Okay?
But I think you can be a bit more ready than we are now because you're trying to build your business and I'm trying to like really excel in my career. And I know kids doesn't stop us down because people are gonna come after me and say you can still be that
and do that. Yeah.
Including your mother.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
and to my grandmother.
Yeah.
But it's inevitable. It will slow you down. Your body is literally has a child inside of you.
Of course.
It's inevitable. You're not gonna have the same energy levels. My best friend Maria is going through it. I see it.
Yeah.
She teaches children. Like the energy, you know, so I think you just need to be comfortable, like at least more comfortable than we are right now.
Okay. I'm happy you brought up the ready part. So obviously, like you said, now, by the way, baby girl just got promoted to managing director. And I'm so proud of you.
Thanks, babe.
And so now, so obviously now your focus is going to be on that.
Yeah.
Right? Like, and now it's the lead up to it and whatever. And you want to be in that for a while. Okay. So that's like a tangible thing for you that you want to have this like kind of down before, and then maybe you'll feel more ready. That's that's more of a goal-based thing. Like, for example, and in my case, I want my business this year and the podcast and whatever to hit a certain,
that's goal-based.
Yeah, and that's also goal-based. But, and you touched on the important point, a stronger foundation.
Yeah.
Okay. What do you, the question I have is on a personal level, like as Lana and like as Khalid, what do you think you need to, or what area do you feel like you need to have more growth in on a personal level to be ready for a kid? The goal is one thing.
I need to be a bit more mature, don't you think? Don't you think I need a bit more emotional maturity and like general, like I'm a bit of a degenerate.
You think so?
You know, like I'm a little bit of a degenerate.
Well, if you're comparing to me, absolutely. But like, I'm
yeah,
it's not
that's
like
what I'm saying. Like, I feel like I need to be emotionally mature. I need to be a bit more mentally mature in terms of like, listen, my priorities have shifted completely since we got married.
Of
but
course.
I think I could be a bit more mature in that aspect.
Sure.
A bit more mature in that aspect.
Yeah.
But also us needs to be a bit more stronger. Like, I want to spend more time with us one-on-one.
Yeah, I agree.
Before I bring in a child.
Yeah. I support that. I think for me, or where I feel like where I'm gonna have the biggest challenge is how do I not repeat the mistakes my parents made?
Yeah.
I love my parents. They're giving me a life that I don't think I deserve, and you would probably say the same thing. But just like with everyone, there were things that I wish, were different.
Yeah.
And I've noticed because of the way I live my life, because of the way, there's, for example, with my kid, there's certain things that I want that to be like ingrained in them, I don't want them to be, you don't have to do this or do that, but there's qualities that are very important for me that you want to have. And I think where I'm going to struggle or what I mentally need to work through is how do you balance that? How do you instill that but not control it? And if you don't do that, it's bad and you're not going to feel enough. And that's where I feel I'm going to have, I do have mentally and I will have the biggest struggle.
Yeah,
that's what I think.
Yeah. I'm with you on that.
Yeah. Well, we'll see what happens, won't we?
Stay tuned to part 3.
Yeah. So we've had the first time when we started dating, we've had now 2 years into marriage.
Yeah.
And inshallah, in X amount of time, we'll do another episode when we have
It'll be
a kid.
on my podcast.
Fine, fair. Fair. I want to say, babe, look, on a personal level, I think my biggest, what makes me feel the most guilty, by the way, this is what makes me feel like the guiltiest. I'm like, even when I'm really angry or whatever, I'm like, but she just loves me, bro.
Bro, that's so.
I know, and she just loves me so much. So I'll be in my anger, for fuck's sake, and I can't believe this and whatever. And then there's the other voice, but she just loves you, bro. And I'm like, And I'm talking to myself in my head. I'm like, yeah, I know, but like I'm really angry now. And it's like, balancing that. I feel guilty about that sometimes. I feel like after last year, and look, there's going to be much more difficult things ahead. But I feel like the last 2 years, looking now into year 3 and going forward, I feel much more comfortable than I probably ever have been.
Me too. I agree with you.
In our relationship and in the marriage.
Like
and
January
in
2024 to January 2025, I think there's a big difference.
That's what I think. So yeah, that was my 2 cents.
Well, I wanted to say I'm just very proud of you. Being interviewed by you 4 years later.
Yeah.
I can see like you've grown very much as a podcaster.
Thank you.
You're very like you bring insight. You're also able to navigate like. This is a very, very challenging episode, probably for you as well to be the host.
It is, yeah.
Like,
it was
interviewing your wife.
It was like and and before we even started, you said you seem nervous, and I'm like, I am.
Yeah.
Because it's you. It's very. This is very personal.
Yeah.
The most personal conversation I could ever have like on my show. I can get deep with other people, but like it doesn't like.
It's personal and deep.
Exactly.
But I just want to say I'm so proud of you, and thank you for having me. I love you very much, and yeah, at the end of the day, I know how much you love me too.
Yeah, I love you, babe. And I think just to round off, if you had, because we know people now that are about to get married and like whatever, reflecting on our conversation today and like everything we've talked about, if you had to give them one piece of advice, what would you give them?
If you're not a good communicator, learn how to be a good communicator.
Okay. I think that's a good one.
Isn't that a good one?
I like that.
If you don't know how to be a good communicator, learn how to be a good communicator, because that skill will not only help you throughout your marriage, but everything else in your life.
Yeah, I agree. That's really, really great advice.
And unique as well, I feel.
Yeah. I would agree. No, I would agree.
Should I give a course on how to communicate?
We'll talk about that off air. I think for me, it would be, if I was giving someone one piece of advice, is you have to decide what can you accept and what can't you accept.
Yeah.
And then you have to make the personal decision on, is this something that you can get over and like you think that you can come to a solution on? Because if you truly can't, and you can't see you ever being able to like come to a solution on like a specific thing, and obviously when you get married, it's going to get 10 times harder, then you have to rethink twice. That's a very important, I think, on a personal level. Your advice is great on the like for you guys to talk on the relationship. My advice would be more on you as a person on a personal level, thinking about what can you accept, what can't you accept, and can you see a future where you can find like a medium with this? Because I think that's very important.
That's a really good one, Khaled.
Yeah, at least that's what I...
get it tattooed on your shoulder.
Fuck that. Imagine. Babe, I love you. Thank you so much for coming on the show. This was obviously a very special, very personal episode. If people want to check out your podcast, whatever, where do we get in touch? Tell them.
Tell me everything with Lance. I'm going to get better at posting this year.
Okay. Yeah.
YouTube, Spotify, Apple, and then you can follow me on Instagram at Lance_though.
Perfect. Guys, you heard it here. Make sure to check out Lanza's podcast if you like dating stories, relationship stories. She's the self-proclaimed relationship guru.
By the way, I told someone a story that the other day and they were dying of laughter.
What? They were laughing?
No, because it was funny. Because you know that guy on Clubhouse, when Clubhouse was a thing?
Yeah, with that, yeah.
That's why I call myself a dating guru.
I see, yeah.
You heard it.
I did hear it.
Yeah.
I did hear it.
Yeah. We're at your house.
You were at my house, I remember. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for listening. Please make sure to like, follow, share, and subscribe to the podcast. I hope it helps pod. And as always, guys, hope it helps. Peace.
Good job, Khaled.
Dunzo.
Good job, baby. You did so well.
And that's another episode in the bag, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. I really, really appreciate it. All I'm trying to do is give back with this podcast. So if you walked away from this episode having learned something new, gained a new perspective, or you simply just enjoyed the episode, that means I've done my job. If you could please do me the small favor of hitting that subscribe button, it would really mean the world to me and would help me build the show and build the channel. And that's all I ask. Stay tuned for a lot more conversations, new topics, more exciting guests. But until then, and until next time, guys, hope it helps. Peace.